So what I want to do is I want to actually go over how to look at um, qualitative data from a survey. And what we have here is a survey from the Pew Research Center, who does really good surveys. And what I want you to do is just to kind of look at the data itself. I know that those are numbers, but those are not really numbers. All those ones, twos, threes, and fours represent different qualitative answers, and those are coded answers. And if you look in the variable view, you can see the question, and then you can see the coding. And so those aren't numbers; those are really labels. And so that's what I want you to think about. How do you deal with those, and how do you begin to kind of make some statistical sense out of those and build a narrative? So let's start by just running this. And the variable that we're going to use was this one. This is how much inaccurate or misleading information do you come across when using Twitter. So we're going to use that variable. And we're going to look at it divided by men and women. And we're going to go to Analyze, Descriptive Stats, and in this case, we're going to use Crosstabs. And in the rows, use the gender variable, which is I looked this up, this is the variable that you want to use. And we are going to use this variable for the columns. And for statistics, we're going to get the chi-square. And for the cells, I want to see the observed values and the expected values. And I want to see the percentages across rows and columns. You get other ones if you want, but those ones I think you're gonna actually need and use. From there, you should just be able to run this. Click OK. And you quickly have the output. You have the N. You know how many were valid. And you have answers by gender. You have a problem here. And the problem is that if you didn't answer the question about gender as a man or woman, you have a very small number of responses, including also the refused responses. This is a problem in chi-square because you need responses of at least 5 for your chi-square to really actually be valid. The nice thing about chi-square is you can have low values like 5 or 6, but don't get any lower. And so one of the things is that you have some very low values in here. And so separating those out of the data set is important. When you do that, you need to write up that you did that. I'm just going to do that quickly. Data, select cases. But only do it if you think it's necessary. Because if you have enough responses, you actually do want them there. By the way, our chi-square wound up being 43, which would have been significant, saying that there's a significant difference between all of these. When we redo this, our chi-square winds up being smaller, still significant. And so what we're saying here is that there is a difference between how men and women are responding to this question. That's the essence of that. So the null would be that the distribution of men answering this question is the same as the distribution of the women answering this question. The alternative is that they're not. And what you found out was the alternative. Now, here's where you have to write the narrative. What does this mean? And that's a big deal because, for instance, where these numbers really wind up being much more different is in how much misinformation men and women see on the internet. And there are a variety of interpretations about what that might be. It might be that men are more critical. It might be that men are more angry. It might be a whole variety of things. We don't know what they are, but we know that they perceive more misinformation on the internet. It's an important piece because it also tells you if you are a researcher or you're a marketer, that men are more likely to be very skeptical of your results, and so make sure that you think about what this means. Running the chi-square is not enough. You need to develop the narrative. That's why I have you working in groups, and that's why you all have multiple questions.